Welcome back to the podcast, Matt Hanson, and welcome. Well, I hope you enjoyed your time here in New Zealand. How was the trip home, and how have you recovered after Ironman New Zealand?
Yeah, always good to be back there. I guess this was my third trip there, and I guess best performance I've had on the island. So we can't complain too much. Trip was uneventful, smooth sailing travel wise. Obviously, it's a long trip, but
Yeah.
um, nothing compared to some of them I did last year, and so yeah, I'm not going to complain too much. And no delays or major delays, anyways. So
Okay.
everything was relatively on time.
Okay. What's the air point, your air miles looking like after last year? Pretty healthy.
Yeah,
Are you getting into all the executive VIP lounges, flying at the front
I,
of the
I
airplane?
I think no, I definitely did not get the front of the airplane for New Zealand. I was very much coach. Unfortunately, didn't win the lottery for an upgrade there. I think I needed one more flight to be able to get the next level up from where I was at the end of last year, and I'm done. I'm not gonna I'm not gonna race just for an upgrade or something like that. No. Um, yeah.
Fair enough. Fair enough. Well, let's talk about Ironman New Zealand before we talk about last year. What a race!
Almost.
Yeah, well, almost. Yeah, it's been. I'm not going to say it's been a long time, but I love the fact that you referenced that you raced for the win because those opportunities don't present themselves all the time. And in more recent years, there's been a lot to work to do once you get into T2.
Yeah.
But what was it like to, really shift that mindset back to, I'm gonna try to win this thing?
Yeah, I had a couple objectives. Obviously, number one objective was get the Kona slot early. That
Yep.
was the reason for the trip. And coming out of the water with where I did and very small gap to the front, I thought I set my day up really well to knock that one out first and foremost, and really just focused on riding hard the first 60 miles or
Yep.
the first just over the first half. And that was a similar plan that I did in Kona the last time I raced there. I rode with the chase group up to Javi, and then when we flipped, I just let him go.
Okay.
And that was kind of the coming out of the water. That was the decision that I made, and I ended up probably spending a little bit too much time on the front of that group. It's been a long time since I've been second on the bike in any race. I think since 2021, maybe. So yeah, I was that. Obviously, you feel a lot better when you're having a good day, I guess. And I was feeling good, riding well, and got to the turnaround. And um, as I was going through town, I had just moved one of my sludge bottles to the front because as soon as we started going back up the hill, I was going to use the hill to refill the reservoir,
Yep.
and kind of got pushed into a roundabout by an age grouper who took the tangent. Just bad timing. Wasn't like they were doing anything malicious, but launched a bottle right there, and I knew that was going to be tough. It was a 750 calorie bottle, so
Yeah.
yeah, 200 grams of carbs. So I knew it was going to be tough to make up for missing out on that. And I knew I had to be a little bit more conservative than I would have liked to
Yep.
on the second lap. But that was also the time right as we went through town, Trevor had caught us, and Trevor and
Fred.
a couple of the other, and Freddie
Yeah.
and KB decided that that was the time to go. And there was nothing I was going to do to stay with them, regardless of how I was feeling when they decided to go.
Yep.
The second group I should have been able to hang with. I think I raced with Jack 3 or 4 times last year and rode with Jack 3 or 4 times last year. So I was kind of frustrated with myself to let him go, knowing that he was racing really well. Maybe, him being half season of his fitness being, or, banked, or half of his season being done by that point.
Yeah.
Helped him a little bit, but he rode really well, and I had a bit of a lull for a little bit before I got back into it. And yeah, came off the bike not knowing where or what it would take to have a shot for the win. I knew that Christian was capable of going sub 230. I knew that Trevor also could. There's a couple of wild cards in there with first time Ironmans, and then Jack runs well. So a lot of the people up the road ran well. So I went out with the intent to run to 228, which is my best. Knew that was a dangerous call, especially being light on calories, but that I felt was the only option that it was going to give me to win. I kind of just took the first mile to find my legs and decide if that was really what I wanted to do. So my first mile was my slowest of the first 20, I guess. And yeah, I mean, in hindsight, it turns out I would have needed a 230 flat to fight with Trevor. And Trevor's a dog. He's going to, if you know, as soon as he took over the lead, I was about 20 seconds back from him. And as soon as he took over the lead, he accelerated and he just got that a little extra boost. And that kind of was the dagger with 10K to go. I definitely was bankrupt on the calorie side of things. And not the way I wanted the last 10K to go. But as we were kind of chit-chatting before we started recording, it was the right call to make for me because I don't know how many more opportunities like that I'm going to get. And it cost me maybe second place. But again, you never know. But in hindsight, I would have made the same call every time. Maybe it would have tried to, I think with about 8K to go, I took 3 gels in an aid station and walked through it. And then I found my legs for about another 3K, and the last couple were pretty ugly. But maybe I would have tried to get that in a little bit earlier. But it went from I'm feeling okay to I'm really not very fast.
Feeling okay. But the Kona slot is important as well. And you won't, you won't die not knowing that you actually gave it a whirl to see if you could win it as well. Because as you say, these opportunities don't present themselves, and they're probably becoming less and less nowadays with the way this Ironman racing is going. When did you?
If I wanted to race non-pro series races, maybe I'd have a couple more opportunities, victories. But maybe not. You never know. You don't know who's going to show up on the day, and this was an opportunity that I had, and I'm still kicking myself a little bit for letting that pass. But there was a lot of positives that came out of it, and got some work to do to have anywhere of a respectable result at Ironman Texas with an even stronger field.
Am I right in saying that it's this year that you're working on your own without Julie Dibbins now? Is it this year you've come forward? Okay. And I'm sure Julie would have been over the moon with your swim performance. It was hilarious.
Definitely.
I was down there, obviously watching the race, saw you came out of the water, then was watching the tracker and everything and the coverage as it went out. And I mean, coaching Jack, we knew who the runners are. You're the last one anyone wants chasing them down. And that was the thought was, well, Matt, if he races as he has over the last couple of years, he might be coming from behind. Leading the bike group at that point in time, I said, everyone's going to be looking around and going, this isn't how it plays out. Matt Hanson's not meant to be here now. Could you sense that maybe people were like, holy heck, this isn't how we saw the initial part of this bike ride going?
Yeah, I think as soon as we caught everybody but Kyle on the 3 that were up the road, I kind of got stuck on the front. And I think that anytime anybody would have to go past, they would kind of immediately sit up and start waving me forward. And
tire the old man out.
and that's okay. Like that used to be how it was in the old days. But I knew that the 20 meter rule change was gonna change some strategies, and I think it's still playing out how it's going to affect long course. And so I think people were a little bit more conservative on that first half, especially with that, knowing that they've got to do a little bit more work on their own. Then, they can't really recover at 12 meters like they could in the past. And so I think people were a little bit more conservative. And last year I rode pretty much alone a lot in most of the races. And so I just kind of rode my own race, and it ended up on the front for a little bit, and then I ended up getting spit out the back, and that was okay. I thought I had done enough work getting off the bike to give myself a shot.
I
did. I just didn't finish the job when it mattered the most.
Yeah. Great start to the year. And
we'll take
it. You've got the Kona slot. In the end, it was not a huge field, but it was an exciting men's race at the front. The athletes that were in that top four, were just circling around each other the entire day. Really nice to be back in the mix again. And, what was a great race overall. And, against some athletes, and Trevor Foley, who's, I'm sure this is going to kickstart another level of performance for him. Pierre Lecour, as a debut Ironman, he seemed to be metronomic in his pacing on the run. He wasn't reacting to anyone.
Yep, that was impressive. He, when I came by him, we said a couple words, but we did on the bike. He was I had never met him before.
Yeah.
We had a couple short chit chats on the course, but really good guy. He seemed, talked to him afterwards. He's going to be a factor throughout the year. He's definitely looking forward to Kona, and I think we'll see a few more debuts in Texas, and that'll be interesting as well. But that's the way it goes.
Okay. I was laughing with you before we recorded. I think I even said this to you. The roll down on the Sunday. I thought last year was Matt Hanson's retirement year. I was certain of it. It's like when athletes of your stature and time in the sport end up doing every race on the calendar, including Challenge Roth, where you had an incredible run performance. I thought at the end of this year, we're going to hear that Matt Hanson's, deciding on just being a coach nowadays. What was the thinking behind last year? And exactly, tell the listeners exactly how many Ironmans you did and exactly how many races you did.
Last year, the thinking was Pro Series and road. And ended up going to South Africa, not having a good day at all, got sick race week, and was very sick, obviously not myself. I think I had a 59-minute swim, and then I couldn't hold 200 watts on the first lap of the bike, so I pulled the pin. And so that kind of set me on the back foot, and didn't recover super well, so didn't have a great Ironman Texas either. And so it was just started the season kind of spiraling. I had already committed to racing Challenge Road, and I've wanted to do that race for a long time, and I wasn't willing to break a contract because I had a bad race previously. And but I still needed, if the Pro Series was something I was going after, I needed to have a couple good races. So I went to Cairns as well. I don't even remember the 70.3s that I did at this point. Oceanside didn't go well. I had 3 races to start the year that just didn't go well. And then St. George finally was a race where I probably performed about like I should have. So that was it took till my fourth race of the year before I finally felt good leaving a race, and went to Cairns and ran really well there, 2:30 flattish. And then we came into the year with a run push and let the bike slip a little bit, and I knew I was running well. Cairns, I biked terribly. The power was fine, but I don't know, something with the travel, the choppy swim, wetsuit swim, my back just lit up early on in the race, and I couldn't get on top of it throughout the entire race. And then it carried over into Challenge Road. And again, it was not a fun, I ran really well there and had really good fitness there, but I couldn't sit narrow. And so I had probably my third best power output ever on the bike, but 90% of it was up on the hoods because my back was just irritated. And yeah, and then I decided to do Nice and Marbella, and I spent a lot of time in the mountains riding, so I wasn't doing a lot of aero intervals, and that's when I finally got on top of getting my back to settle down. And obviously I don't belong in a mountain race by any way, shape, or form. I descend like I have kids, and the kids that I'm racing don't. So I ran well in both of them, but I just got smoked on anything going downhill. So
what about the three, what was it, Cairns, Rote, and then Placid, three Ironmans in 5 weeks? I think I did you a disservice. I said you're getting on to your maybe 30, 43, 44, but you're 41 going 42? Is that what we're talking?
I'll be 41 in May. So,
41 in May, okay.
Yeah, so...
Three Ironmans in such close proximity to each other. How did you manage that? And because I don't think you've always been noted as someone who's been, like what Christian Blumenfeld's doing these days, back-to-back races, but training for and recovering from, and through that block as well, just holding on to some fitness. How did you structure that?
That was a tough block. It was playing the Pro Series game. Like I said, I wasn't going to break my contract with Challenge Road, and I had to play the cards knowing that I don't descend well on the bike. Could I get more points out of Placid or Nice?
Yep.
And I felt like racing Placid, I still had the option to go to Nice if I still had legs. If I didn't, then I was risking a potential standing in the Pro field or Pro Series. And at that point, a top 10 was still very much in the mix. And I had a good 3/4 of the race at Lake Placid. The last, I don't know if everybody knows that course, but the run is 10K down, or it's basically 5K down, hill, 5K uphill. And you just repeat that. And the last uphill just destroyed me. And I don't know that I was getting my feet up high enough to move up the hill at certain points. But so the fatigue definitely sat in there. I took 10 days off after that race, and 7 of them I didn't even go to the pool. I just took it off.
Yeah.
And so that was when I decided that it was time to make a change. It wasn't, that's when I started working on my own officially, was leading into the World Champs. And that wasn't I'm upset with Julie, I'm not meshing well. It was always the plan to finish my career self-coached. I want to be coaching the elite level athletes when I'm fully devoted to coaching. I've got a couple of pros on my roster right now, and that's a lot of fun. That's where, I love coaching in general, but I really want to be able to give back to the pro field when I'm done. And I thought I needed to show the trust in myself in order to show that I trust myself enough at the same level that I would expect them to trust me.
If I'm prepared to coach myself, then I can coach other pros. Okay.
I didn't want to just be like doing it when I'm washed up and trying to save money or something like that. I wanted to do it when I could still be competitive. And I made the switch and at the beginning of September, I guess. And so did the 2 World Championships, and then Arizona and the 70.3 in La Quinta to end the season.
I'm tired.
I was a mental noodle by the end of it. It was physically going into the last La Quinta, or the bridge between Arizona and La Quinta. Physically, I felt okay, but I just didn't have. You want to try to do a little bit of top end to get ready for a 70.3 coming off of a full, and I had to use the treadmill and just set the pace and refuse to fall off, because I couldn't just go out to the track and push myself to where I needed to. And it was a fine way to end the year. The reason I did that was for family stuff. I wanted to be able to be off over the holidays and
Yeah,
really take a good break over the holidays and
it's a
spend some family time.
very tough and fatiguing way to justify the holiday season, because I think it's like six Ironmans and sprinkling of 70.3s, and none of those being easy 70.3s either, because Oceanside, I think St. George, world champs in Marbella as well. So certainly a massive year. I want to ask you about Roth. When you signed your contract, is there an incentive in the contract for you to break the 230 barrier in Roth? Is that something that you sign up for before the event?
Not enough to ruin the result.
Okay.
The result still mattered a lot more.
Yeah. Okay. So there's an incentive on top of a cherry of having a decent race there. But, in breaking that 230, it's an incredible run. I mean, all your Ironman marathons, from way back when you first started, when we were talking about low 230s and occasionally dipping under that 240 barrier at Ironman Texas, where you made your name, boy, you've been able to even take that further forward. And the run has been a progression across the entire sport at long course racing. And I asked this of Tamara Jewett the other week when we had her on the podcast. I said to her, Ironman New Zealand run course is advertised as flat. It's not flat.
It's not.
What do you think?
It's not flat. No. It feels flat for the lap one. Then you start to, this is a little bit more uphill than I remember the last lap, and then on lap 2, and then 3 and 4, it definitely feels like that little bump in the road turns into a mountain pretty fast.
Yeah.
Especially when you're bankrupt on calories. But
your progression though, because now you have moved your run forward. What do you and how have you approached the run to take? You've always been a market leader in terms of full distance racing and the run split that you produce. But has it just been consistency over time? Do you feel that you've done anything in particular that's evolved you to this person that, goes to Chelland Road, runs a sub 230 and then runs the same sort of time at Ironman Cairns, and then is consistently now running in that 228 to 235 range, depending on how demanding the rest of the race is? What do you put that down to?
I think there's a lot of things that have brought the entire run forward overall. Obviously, the super shoes have not only allowed us to run faster, but we can train a little bit more if we sprinkle them in. I think a lot of people use it as a crutch.
Yep.
I don't think you should be doing any slow running, especially in carbon plated shoes. But for one session for the bulk of the year, maybe as the season wears on, I might do 2 or 3 a week, where you just recover a little bit faster. And so even though I'm getting up there in age, I'm still holding 70 plus miles a week for over half the weeks of the year.
Okay.
Which converted, that's 130K-ish.
Okay. Is that what you've always sort of focused on, a volume-oriented approach to your running?
I've been a little bit unique in the way that I've approached my run. Is like, I've always felt that we can't follow the same philosophies that a marathon runner does.
Yep.
Or a marathon runner will do a lot of slow running. And I feel like I get the aerobic adaptations that I need to on the bike in hours and hours on the bike. And so like tomorrow I'll do a 5-hour ride and probably never get above 130 beats per minute.
Yeah.
So I don't do a lot of slower running. I'm not comfortable doing that. I don't think everybody has the ability to manage doing their easy runs at 6:10 per mile pace, which is a 241 marathon pace. But that's where I'm most comfortable. That's where I'm most efficient. I've had multiple lactate threshold tests where my lactate is higher at 6:30 per mile than it is at 6 flat.
Okay.
As the efficiency goes up, that's where I'm comfortable. Anytime I've tried to, every coach I've ever had has tried to slow that down.
Yeah.
because that's what tradition says it should be. And that's when the overuse injuries, the niggles, I get tendonitis every time I try to slow down in our
Okay.
Achilles or my knee. And so um, I've been able to take a little bit more of the pounding than I think maybe some of the people have, but I also think that's been part of the reason I've been able to lock into race pace pretty easily, because I don't do much training below that.
Okay, so in that 70 odd miles a week, a lot of it's done in and around Ironman marathon pace or circa that.
Yeah, I mean, I guess if you factor in the conversion with super shoes,
Yeah,
yeah.
yeah.
So I'm a little bit slower than the marathon pace in trainers for the base mileage, and then obviously the intervals and speed work on top of that.
Yeah, yeah. You've had your own unique running style over the years. Has anyone ever tried to make any biomechanical changes to that? Because if I could get your stride length with someone else's turnover, Jack's got a pretty quick turnover, but he's got long limbs as well, and long levers. So stride length's pretty impressive. But no, you seem to be able to tolerate that. I know you've had hip problems over the years, and also obviously the back problems on the bike, but mechanically, has anyone ever tried to tweak your running action?
I've done a number of stride analysis with people that I trust, and it, the number one thing that you have to keep in mind when you're trying to deal with somebody's stride is you have to look at their unique mobility.
Yep.
And I've always been a little bit hypermobile.
Yep.
And so with my longer stride length, that allows me to basically stretch the entire fascia system and get that elastic return.
Yep.
And so if you look at like the 3D modeling of my return, you can actually see that the first about 70% of the knee drive is energy free.
Okay.
And then you can see when the actual musculature has to engage the last 30%.
Yep.
So if I shorten that up, I lose the entire efficiency, which is why running slower is really hard for me, because I become more inefficient.
Yep.
I can't run on trails. I feel like Gumby. I just can't do it if the surface is uneven.
Terrain. Okay, yeah, I can see how that would be the case.
So, I mean, I get a lot of flack for what is happening with my arms, but as I often reply on socials, anybody trying to do a stride analysis that isn't talking about what happens in the hips first, run away as fast as you can with the exact same stride you came from. It's not about where your foot hits the ground. It's what's happening at the hips, then the foot hitting the ground in relation to your center of gravity. Arms are the last thing to worry about.
Albeit, though, in your unique running action, I feel, and I said this to people as you were running around at Ironman New Zealand, I said, it works for Matt. Everything, I believe, in how you get from one foot strike to the next is a kinetic chain from top to bottom, and the arms do support that stride, the unique stride pattern that you have. And I said to people, don't try to copy what Matt does, because what he does is unique to him, but it works, and I wouldn't change a thing.
Yeah, if I hadn't spent the first 20 some years of my life wrestling, I wouldn't be nearly as mobile as I am, and I wouldn't be able to have the stride that I am or that I have. And it's all about the principles of stack and fit. And if you get those to line up right, you get a free explosion of energy on the toe off, and then your recovery is effortless. And when that happens, I think it's been a number of years ago, but Runner's World magazine came out and said, this is the optimal stride, and this is the optimal stride length and cadence. And then everybody tried to, and it was funny how many athletes I had. I fixed my cadence. I fixed my, where my foot is hitting the ground. Now I just need to get that 30K per, or 30 seconds per K back that I lost. And just like, the contractions are happening so fast. That if you're thinking about it, you're already slowing yourself down.
Any conscious thought is inefficient.
Any changes that you have, you readdress first with mobility, second with drills,
Yep.
And then you can do some running where you're consciously thinking about it. But if you're thinking, like, I may have cues, like postural cues,
Yep.
like sure. Okay. So I wear my hat backwards and tilted back,
Yep.
not because I think it looks cool, because as soon as I break down, the bill comes off the back of my neck. And that's a
Okay.
cue to me that I needed to run tall again.
Okay.
And so, like, that's one of my cues. And putting the hat, like, yeah, I know I don't look cool, but that's what it keeps, like, that's one of the things that when I start breaking down, it like lets me know right away.
Let me tell you, Matt, it's not about the way that you wear your hat. It's when you're mowing through the field. You look cool, mate. I can tell you, you look cool. You put the fear of God into anyone in front of you, as you have done your entire career. Talking about the bike then, it must be really pleasing where the bike's at early season for you as well, because you mentioned the new 20-meter draft rule. It's going to change things. We don't know how it's going to change things completely, because that was a smaller field here at
Yep.
IRONMAN New Zealand. Texas is going to be a different beast altogether, but it's nice to start the year thinking that the bike's in a pretty good place if you're looking to build from here.
Yeah, definitely. Like, I've had so many races plus or minus 5 watts normalized overall, and really for me the biggest determining factor of how the bike goes is how I'm able to hold aero. I've got a spondy, which is a small fracture in the spine that'll never heal. It's a wrestling injury. I've had it my entire life, and when things are going bad, the whole vertebrae rotates a few degrees and puts pressure on nerves and causes a whole lot of problems. Ironically, as soon as I start running, things so
touch wood, that's a good thing.
Yeah, as long as that stays, then we're okay. But it was good to have a long travel, sitting in the back of the plane heading to New Zealand and getting off and feeling good, and that shows that what I'm doing in the weight room and the physio side of things is I'm in a good spot there. And in Texas, you get absolutely punished if you can't sit in aero, especially if it's going to be or if it turns out to be one of the days that the wind decides to howl. So it's going to be an important day to go in with a good back, and that's going to be a big determining factor for me. But yeah, I mean, New Zealand was a confidence builder in showing that, like, in last year especially, I got onto the bike and I started moving backwards. And earlier on in the career, I was moving forward. And obviously I moved back towards the end of the ride, but I was in the mix for as long as I needed to be in the mix. And then, and then it wasn't there's nothing I was going to do to chase Trevor on the bike, but
no,
I had planned on backing off as soon as we got through that last uphill, or the uphill out of town anyways. And that's where they decided to go. But yeah, they didn't put a ton of time into me, which was what I needed to do.
Yeah. Going to Ironman Texas, I remember being in Texas a number of times, and you're very well known in Texas, Matt. I think Texas put you on the map. I'm sure there's plenty of athletes who are involved in Matt Hanson racing. It's a favorite race. How many times have you won it?
I've won it 3 times. So the first time was 2015. And I was still teaching full time at that point. And that was kind of the race that I had to drive home from that race. It was a 17 plus hour drive back, and I went straight to the university, got there at 7 a.m., showered, changed, prepped for classes there, taught 8, 9, 10. I'm like, I can't keep doing this. So that was the race that I made the decision afterwards my wife was supportive in this idea, but made the decision afterwards. So it's been a career making race. 16, I was having a good day, decided to pass out with a couple miles to go, and came back in 17 and 18 and won it again. So yeah, it's been a while since I've been on the podium there, but it's definitely been a race that's been good to me in the past.
Yeah. looking at what is a fairly sizable start list, a lot of new athletes, new faces, a lot of athletes with a ton of potential as well. And there's going to be some smart athletes, much like Pierre Lacour was here at Ironman New Zealand, who really don't need 5 or 6 Ironmans to work out how to actually do this Ironman racing. How do you think, and what would you view as a good performance in Texas?
It's going to be a really hard race to map out, because ahead of time you don't know if it's a calm day, it's very very different than if it's really windy, and if it's 100 degrees and humid like it has been, it's a very different race than like it was I think in 2018 it was about 70 degrees, very low humidity and no wind. So it was a stupid fast day, and the faster the conditions, I think everything gets closer together at the front of the race. It's harder to get separation. Then it makes it more a runner's race. The 17 and 18 were like that when I took the win. The 19 and a couple of the other years that I've been there, when the wind really howls, it separates it out and it makes it more in favor of the stronger cyclists. So it's a hard run to game plan out. I do know that the swim is going to be fire. It's going to be a fast swim with that many guys. If it happens to come out like 70.3 Worlds did, where there's not much separation, because there's a lot of gap fillers, the first 20 minutes are going to be absolute chaos. If you do the math, it's like if you've got 20 guys 20 meters apart, that's a quarter mile, or 400 meters. So it's going to make it hard for the people chasing to move through packs. If you've got to pass a 20 guy pack, that's a long surge. So we'll learn a lot about what Kona is going to be by watching this race, I think. For me, I just want to go in, execute a good day, set myself up to feel good about it at the finish line. And if that's a top 5, great. If it's a top 10, great. As long as I feel like I executed things well. There's just so many wild cards there. It's really hard to know what to expect.
Based on last year, based on the progression of the run, and you talk about Cairns being a 2:30 on the nose, and obviously on a slightly softer and benevolent surface, and Roth, you go faster than that. Is that the new benchmark for you, getting off the bike? You talked about here, Ironman New Zealand, setting off with 2:28 in the back of your mind. I mean, these are numbers. Not me. A few years ago, we weren't talking about these as being realistic numbers as such. But is that where you see a good result coming from, where the swim is put you in position, the bike puts you even in better position, and you get off saying, I'm giving myself a mile to work out whether I can run 2:28 pace?
That's the only plan that gets me to the front these days. Like the game is elevated so much that if you lose 3 minutes in the swim and another 4 or 5 minutes on the bike, I mean, and that's a good day for like that was to Kyle. I lost that, and if that's what you're losing, you've got to be able to run sub 2:30 to have a shot. And at World Champs last year, that wouldn't have even brought me into the top 10, and obviously didn't ride well. But even if I rode fantastic, I probably don't break the top 10 because of how well the swim and the bike went for everybody else, and they ran well off of that. And if Kona is going to go well, I don't know that running sub 2:30 in Kona on a normal weather day is in the cards, but mid 2:30s is got to be the game plan, at least in the prep. You do the calculus as best you can based on where you want to get to or what your aspirations are on the day. But that has to be the mindset in the prep leading into the race is I have to prepare myself for Texas to run 230 flat off of a 405 bike
Yeah.
in order to have a shot at the top 5.
Yeah. 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 I'm going to ask you something just as an overview of where the sport is at the moment. And now that we've introduced the 20-meter draft rule, for someone like you, do you think that maybe there's a few too many pro licenses out there where the standard of athlete is not high enough, where this new 20-meter draft rule, you might have a number of people who are very good swimmers but are going to go backwards really, really quickly, that could really clog up the first 20 miles of that bike ride, making your job significantly more difficult when you know that that body of athletes is going to finish an hour plus behind you at the end. And I do think that this problem exists more in North America than it does across other regions in the world. Do you think I've got a point?
It's definitely tough. What Oceanside has 74 guys on the start list. You know, who knows how many of them show up, but it's difficult to have a clean race. Oceanside has some kickers early on that separate the chaff pretty early. Thankfully, the first half of the bike is harder there, but Texas really doesn't. And so it definitely changes. It changes the swim because there's gap fillers. And then it changes the bike because it makes it harder to get position. I don't know the right answer for that. I don't know that limiting field, like how you fairly limit field sizes. If you have to have a qualification to get to the pro series races, that doesn't sit well, because then you've got newcomers that wouldn't have the opportunity, you know, and are like Yella should be on the, like, there's no start list that he doesn't belong on if he wants to be. Right. So you can't just say, oh, you have to do this to earn your spot there. So I don't know what the answer is. I do think it's fairly easy to get an elite license. And a lot of people take that elite license, especially in North America, because it's cheaper to race that way. You buy you buy your annual license for the year, and then you can race as often as you want.
That's what you did last year, Matt.
Well, that's what I planned on doing. Like, I took my elite license in 2013. I never planned on racing pro. But I had 3 flats in Kona, and I wanted to race on that fitness. So I took my elite license so I could go race Arizona to show myself that, hey, the work had paid off. Then I raced in 14 thinking I was moonlighting as a quasi-professional, and ended up winning my first Ironman in September of that year. And then it got a little bit more serious. And so it's hard for me to say that we shouldn't do that either, because it's much more rare now that people can have a successful pro career, making, you know, prize money regularly, coming through that route, but it's not impossible. So I talked a long time and didn't give you an answer on that, but
no. I think it's because this year it might reveal where we need to head to in terms of field sizes, and also the qualification process to get a pro license. I do think it's a bit more of a North American problem than elsewhere in terms of the depth of field. We see that quite a bit with American races, with, you know, some pros finishing in 70.3s, half an hour or more behind the winner. So I do think maybe the way that you achieve a pro license in America might need to be reviewed a little bit, because if it means for someone, and I think just thinking about your situation, the swimmer's not going to be the strongest part of your day, but you could have 20 athletes get out of the water in front of you that with a 20-meter draft rule, you now have to overtake. And that is going to take a whole lot of energy when those athletes are really not going to be competitive at the end of the day. And these athletes are racing these pro Ironman series, and we need the best of the best having the fairest races possible. So, that's just a hypothetical point worth discussing, and we'll see how it all unfolds as the year progresses, when we see how these races actually unfold with the 20-meter draft rule. New Zealand was a good test case, not a huge field. Dallas wasn't a pro series race, but still had 50 people on the start list, but didn't have a swim to separate it.
Yeah.
So Oceanside's going to be a real litmus test this coming weekend.
It didn't seem a huge issue in Geelong.
Yeah.
But
no,
not a huge field either.
Yeah.
But a lot of firepower, that's for sure.
Yeah. Some decent running there, Matt.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's a different world.
Yeah.
I mean, it used to, when I first started, if I got off the bike and ran a 1:12, I was in the podium, in the hunt for the podium.
Absolutely.
No matter what I rode. You know, if I could be 5 minutes down, and if I ran a 1:12, I had a shot.
Yeah.
It's not the world we live in anymore.
Not the case. No, there are some people that are going to be at the front of the swim, the front of the bike, and then at the front of the run. Really looking forward to how that unfolds in Texas. And then looking forward to maybe one of your last Konas. I know you're talking, intending to race next year as well, and I'm sure there'll be a view to get back to Kona. It's a huge race and very important to all athletes, including, American athletes in particular. What would be a good Kona for you this year, looking at if we get the best of the best on the start line?
You've got, if I'm going to commit to Kona, I've got to try to one up my last one, at least. And that's always the mindset that I have in the prep. I've found out a number of ways to not be successful in Kona. I struggled there a number of times, but I was back half of the field the first number of times I raced there. And then 2 attempts ago, I was 15th, and then I was 10th this last time there. And so, the prep will be the aim and prep will be going after another bowl. That will be what fuels the battle to get there. Is it going to be easy? Absolutely not, but nothing worth doing is.
Yeah. Well, that's good, because I think in Kona, if we look at the last incarnation of it, the race was raced as if it was a 70.3, and those athletes, a T100, where the foot is on the on the accelerator until last man standing, and we found a real high attrition rate, which would suit your race down to the ground, wouldn't it?
Yeah, and that you have to decide going into Kona if you're for the front guys, if you're racing for the win and willing to accept the consequences.
Yeah,
and for a lot of the guys that aren't necessarily all in on the Pro Series, that's the play.
Yeah,
if you're not all in for the Pro Series, you need to be all in for Kona. It's kind of one or the other.
Yeah.
And so a lot of those guys, maybe they had an injury earlier in the season, so they couldn't chase the series. It makes sense to go all in. Why not? And there'll always be a couple blow-ups there. Yeah. I think the last time we were there 3 weeks later, or a couple of weeks later, and the weather was amazing. Yeah. Until we got onto the run, and then the heat came out, and I think that played a little bit into the attrition. We thought we were going to get this day that was going to just be, epically perfect, and then reality set in on the last half of the run. But I think the top 15 were all under 8 flat, weren't they? Yeah. So you had to be under 8 hours to get a paycheck, and I think I was 10th with the 11th fastest time on the island, ever. It was just, it's a different,
much like running a 112. If you're not, you've got to go well under 8 hours nowadays. So everything's shifted. And, just to finish off, it must be nice at your, career point to look and think that you're still competitive when the sport is probably, at its absolute peak at the moment. I'm sure it's going to get fast from here. I have no idea where and how, but it must be nice to sit here and still know that on your day you're competitive. You had a chance to win at Ironman New Zealand. There may be another chance in the year, and you've already got your Kona slot. Stay healthy. consistent training, maybe not 1,000 races this year.
We'll tape the racing down a little bit.
And then that result in Kona is not beyond the realms of possibility.
Yeah, New Zealand was definitely a boost in confidence. Last year, I didn't have a great year. I had a couple good runs, but I didn't ever have a overall race that I was really happy about. And I struggled with that during the off season a little bit, and setting the goals for the year, and really, I've talked a little bit about this on one of my YouTube videos. It was last year I passed Cam at St. George right when we passed his family, and just seeing his little kids go absolutely nuts for him was kind of a kick in the shorts for like that.
Yeah.
That meant a lot to me. And I have a 2-year, she just turned 2 this last weekend, and she is starting to understand that when she sees somebody on the bike or running, it might be daddy. And like, to have the day in New Zealand that I did, and getting videos from my wife of my kid being able to see me on TV and just like jumping up and down on the couch.
Yeah.
She sent me those. I'm sitting in drug testing. I'm like, okay, I need a minute. Just give me a minute. Like,
I'm going to get emotional here.
Yeah. And it changed my perspective. It's not just about winning races right now. Obviously, I want to still give myself the opportunity for that. And I want to still perform to the best of my ability. But I also want to be an influence, half the influence to my little girl that my dad and my parents were to me. And that's kind of the motivation to keep on chugging along, whether the results are like they were in New Zealand or like I was getting last year.
Yeah. Well, Matt, you're welcome back to New Zealand at any point in the future. I think it enjoys you being here, and you added to the race for sure. And it was a wonderful race here. So best of luck with the rest of the preparation for Texas, and also going into the rest of the year, and awesome to catch up and chat.
Yeah, thanks. Great to chat.